Hi, Josh here. I wanted to show you how you can set up a blog with Sapper and Svelte in about 10 minutes. Sapper is a really neat framework for building Svelte apps. It gives you a good starting point so that you can kind of build your app that can either run on a server with a client-side, server-side rendering and client-side rendering, or you can run it as a static site generator. Now today, since I'm going to use a blog as an example, and my blog is using static content, I'm just going to go with a static site generator. Cool, so let's get started. First, we'll set up our project. Now there's this really nice tool called dgit, which is kind of like git clone, except it doesn't include the git stuff, so it's not a fork, it's like a brand new folder. And we could use Svelte+Sapper template, but I've actually gone ahead and forked it just because I wanted to start with a blank slate that has no demo code, and we'll call this blog. And so that gives us a folder where we can go in and we can see that there is a source directory. It has components and routes. I'm going to go ahead and install all the dependencies. And we'll start up the server. Open in the browser, and there we go. So I'm going to open a new tab here, and let's create a directory to hold our posts. And I'm going to make two posts. We'll call one example.md, we'll have another one called example2.md. So on the left-hand side, we'll first start off with some front matter, just some metadata. Put in a title, say hello world, we'll have a summary, like this is a post, and we will also, let's say, put a date in there, so 2020. We'll close off the front matter, and then here we can have any markdown that we want. So I'm going to copy this, and we'll do the same for the other one. We'll just change it a bit. Cool. So we're going to need something that's going to read these files for us. I'm going to create a file inside our src called post.js. And we could try to import a post by specifying it directly, like this, example.md. This won't work for two reasons. First of all, we don't have support yet for markdown imports. Second of all, we really don't want to import one post at a time. We really want to import a wildcard list. So to do that, we'll have to install some plugins for rollup. So we'll add a plugin for handling markdown and a plugin for handling glob imports, as well as Lodash. I need Lodash because I want to sort the posts by date. So let's set up our rollup config to add those plugins. Let's import the markdown plugin. It's called Jack Franklin, I believe. Rollup plugin markdown. And we'll have another one called glob. Now we'll need to include these plugins to our list, and we actually have multiple bundles that we're building. We're building a bundle for the client. We're also building a bundle for the server, so we'll need to include it in both. First, I'll include it for the client. And then I'll find the server and I'll do the same. Great, so now that's working. Let's go back to our posts and clean that up a little. So now we'll call this thing all, and we'll have to export it as a const. Let's say const equals all. Now if we console log that, let's see what it looks like. Right now nothing's importing it, but if we go into our our index file. We can import the list of posts here. Now we can iterate through them. And we'll add an article. And the post title. And we'll add a p tag, the summary. Okay, so we have a problem, and it is that we're using post.title. But our actual shape is using metadata, so let's correct that. Let's go back to posts, and in here what we're going to do is let's build a chain with Lodash, and what our chain will do is it'll map each post and transform it. So we'll define a function here called transform. And that'll take a post which has file name, metadata, and HTML. And then we're going to order this. So we're going to order by date descending. So that's the date from the front matter. And then we'll convert it back to an array. So let's look at this here. What we want to do is we want to basically create a permalink based on the file name. So we just take the file name and we replace the .md at the end with an empty string. And then we return the metadata at the top level with the file name and the permalink and the HTML. And you know what, actually, let's also add a date in an actual proper date format, not as a string. Great, so now let's look at what we have. Do we have to restart? Crash. Yeah, okay, so we spelled the import wrong. It's just one level. There we go. Refresh. Beautiful. Let's add a link. And we'll link it to post. Let's say we'll call it /post.permalink. And now it's linkable, so we click on it, but that page doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and set that up. So to do that, we'll create a new route called posts/permalink. Now we'll use a special syntax of square brackets to denote that permalink is a param. Now to get at that param, we'll need to define a script tag with a context module and context module is special because it allows us to get at a preload function which gives us the page params. So we'll be able to, and that's just a convention from Sapper, and that gives us page params.permalink, which we'll need, and we're going to return the actual post, and we're going to need a way to find the post based on the permalink, like that, and then whatever we return here, we can then define a prop for. So just say export let post. Then we will define an h1 tag. We'll include the post title, and we'll include the body as well, post.html. So now we need to define this find posting. What I'll do is I'll put it in the same file we use with the list of posts. So we'll say find post from dot posts. Let's go into sfc posts and we'll export a function called find post based on the perm link. Don't need that anymore. And we'll return. We'll use Lodash again here. We'll say find posts, and we can just use this dictionary syntax. That should do it. There you go. So now we found the post. So there you have it. That's a fully functioning blog. Let's set up Git. Let's add everything. Let's commit. Now we can also create a project for this. So I'll call this sample blog. That'll create the project on GitHub for me, and I can push it to GitHub. Now let's deploy it. Let's just say yarn export. This is going to create the static site. And we could run the static site locally with this command, but in our case, what we want to do is deploy it. So I will just say now to deploy with site. I'll accept. There we go. So let's give it open it up. Bam, working site. So there you have it. For more videos about Svelte, check out my online course at svelte.video. Cheers.